It's a spiritual. If you turn.
We have with us today Dr. Teck Kheong, who is going to speak to us for 10 minutes because he was one who, like Andrew, was at the forefront of the COVID crisis. So he's going to give us 10 minutes. Alan has graciously stepped aside for 10 minutes. Dr. Kheong, we're so grateful to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You may not know, but I was a Conservative candidate, and I remember in the same room with Andrew in Colville back in 2009. Obviously, Andrew rose into Parliament, and I skidded along. But, you know, the 30 years that I spent before in different parts of the country, and then the 40 years I completed as a GP taught me a lot of things about life, ordinary people's lives. I can tell you, my journey was full of hope and also tragedy. When COVID came, I had the enviable task of doing something that was true to my conscience. Within a very short space of time, I realized from my research background that things were not right. Here is a product that was rushed through phase 3 clinical trials onto the public, not just in a limited study, but right across the world. There was no informed consent. There was no informed consent because they knew very little. There was no long-term safety data. There was no pharmacovigilance. Now, when I did clinical trials, I would explain to the people what it's all about, the alternatives, and you can step out of it, or if you develop a nasty reaction, we'll stop it and give you the right treatment. There was none of that. In fact, when the people were jabbed, and things happened, it has to happen within 28 days for it to count as an adverse event. Now, if those people who develop autoimmune conditions or whatever develop problems later on, they were not included. And I also remember how during the early months, we were given directives. If somebody had COVID, regardless of other symptoms they may have, the cause of death was to be COVID. There was so much subversion. Any doctor who dare speak out was castigated, and if they dare mention, like I did, about alternative treatments, they were surveilled, they were watched, and there were people suspended, even erased from the register. I wrote an article for Daily Express in February of 2021. I said, look, we call for a moratorium. Now you're going to give it to children. It's not safe, it's not effective, and children normally don't have problems with the class of infections that belong to coronavirus. Why do we give it? Do you know, that article, I had to tune it down before they would even publish it. I was on LBC once. I was supposed to go back to talk to them again. But because I mentioned the bare facts, things that I've seen clinically, I wasn't invited back again. Now, let me tell you this. I saw my first child in casualty with myocarditis 2 weeks after his jab. And it happened in this circumstances. The nurse saw me coming in. He said, Teck, I've got this young boy, 15. Mum brought him in with chest pain and shortness of breath. I've done ECG, oxygen saturation, chest x-ray. Everything was normal. And I asked the registrar, I said, well, if you want to discharge him, give them the leaflet saying if anything got worse, to come back in. I said, look, if you're concerned, do troponin. Sit the mum and child outside. 45 minutes later, the results came back. Troponin, which is a cardiac enzyme marker of heart damage, was 10 times above normal. Now, that is the sort of thing that happens. You know, forget about the child for a time being. When the government had a coroner's report that Lisa Shaw died cerebral thrombosis as a result of the jab, one life lost, is that not important? Many lives lost, is that not important? There are people who complain about the side effects, relatives who have suffered. Why are we continuing with the jab? Why do I have a text saying your GP is ready to give you the flu and the COVID jab this winter? We must resist it. Now, my final message is this. My final message is this. To back up what Andrew said, we are many. The elite are few. We can change it. Now remember, they tried to put in 15-minute cities, 20 mph limits. Where does it start? It starts in the council. All of you here have the potential to become councillors. When these are put before the council, you vote these things down. Now, it's easy to get into council. If you ever sat in the council chamber and hear how to debate, you can do it better. And you don't need many votes. You don't need many votes. In a ward where there are about 3,000 eligible electors, if you get 800, 900, you're in. And you're recompensed for the time, and you need only about 2 sessions a month, at the most 3, to do your job. So you get paid for the time, you commit to serving the local community, you get to become the voice of the local community. It has to start somewhere, and I'm sure Neil Petrie will tell you about how local democracy will work. Remember, we are many, and we'll stand up to the tyranny of people trying to introduce stakeholder capitalism, which is a new word for communism. So we're here now. We are united. We've got to be united, and we'll shout, we'll fight for our children. Freedom! Freedom! Freedom!